Earlier in the month we talked about Season 5 of Buffy overall, and I did go into a bit more detail than usual on some episodes there because I love some of those episodes, you know, for good or ill. And when I was looking at the episode list of things I really wanted to cover today, I struggled to narrow it down to the usual 4. There was one more that was just, I need to be covered. I mean, I could theoretically drop one, but I do want to cover them all because they all have very vital sort of elements that move forward. So, yeah, I'm going to do 5, but because I've done most of them in greater detail, and one of them I couldn't keep off the list because I forgot to mention it last time, and that's what we're going to open with. And that is family. We had hints in Season 4, including in the whole dream thing, and we had a bit of it in early Season 5 that perhaps Tara was not quite what she appeared. There may have been more to her. You know, she makes a demon spell go awry. Because, why? Is she worried she's a demon? But she seems to pass very well. We've never seen any real demonic traits. Magic itself is not demonic. But we learn, through her family coming back, exactly what she was worried about. And this episode was weird because, rewatching it, now that I'm very familiar with Amy Adams' face, being that she's been Lois Lane, she was in Arrival, Enchanted, all these things, you know, once her star had flown after this, it was very weird watching her in this unflattering role, really, of being like the controlled woman, you know, in the family. She agrees with this family's dogma. But we learn that, in fact, Tara isn't demonic. She's just a girl who happened to enjoy magic. Because her mother died, they attributed it to the magic, but it was entirely separate. People die. And she gains a family. I love the title of the episode because it's wonderful dual meaning. You see her family come and you're like, oh, that's the meaning of the episode title. But it's towards the end of the episode when everyone, and sort of almost Spike, is accepting her as family. I mean, yeah, Spike does accept her, clearly, in his actions, but he's, I don't think, comfortable in saying it quite the same way. He has to be the, so you best back off kind of threatening approach. And it was just such a great way of really saying this character is a big part of these people's lives. She's very important to all of us. And of course this, you know, respect and love for her is what made sort of later, you know, in the season, the whole mind suck and the whole things with Season 6 about her being very upset that her mind's being tampered with later on, very much more impactful. But that's really getting ahead of myself there. But the episode following this, which I did reference, is Fool for Love, where Buffy's very unsure of what to do. She's got this whole situation with Dawn to deal with, and Spike's got this growing fantasy version of Buffy he wants, etc. And she just needs some help, really, in knowing what to do, in knowing who she is, where she comes from. What is a Slayer? This guy's killed 2. He can tell me exactly what I need to know. And we get some great flashbacks. We get to finally see, you know, fully Nikki being killed, who we later have recast and becomes a mother all of a sudden out of nowhere. But, you know, this is the season that introduced a little sister out of nowhere, so that's kind of small beans. But we also obviously got the counterpiece to the episode in Angel, Darla, where, you know, we saw his history and the whole Boxer Rebellion thing. We see Spike's version of it, where it's like, I backed a Slayer. All this, like, you know, hope and uplifting kind of side to him. And that shot, that slow-mo shot that I mentioned in the Angel video, you know, it's got a very different feel in this episode. It's very, like, successful. It's very conquering, you know. It's conquering heroes, to use that term completely wrongly. But, of course, like I say, in Angel we learn that, no, it wasn't actually that heroic. It wasn't that great. And it was just a great episode to show that growing respect from Buffy, and, you know, whether at the end of it all she really does learn to love him or not, you know, this would have been a very big factor in that, I think, because he just gave it her straight. Of all her friends, he's the one who tells it like it is, and that's a great trait. You know, I think friends should be able to tell you if, you know, they should be able to tell you the truth without fear of repercussion, in theory. So the next episode I want to talk about is I Was Made to Love You, and again I did go into this in brief in the overview. But it's such a great piece, not only because it obviously sets up the whole Buffy bot scenario, which helped towards the end of this season and got resolved at the start of the next, but because it was just, whilst, you know, everything was getting kind of heavy and we were starting to ramp up the whole we need to get rid of Glory somehow scenario, you know, we had to have something a bit light, and Shondafar, I think, deserves the most praise out of anyone, probably for this entire season, because the way she portrays April is perfect, and I mean that. She's not the bleep bloop bleep bloop, what do I do, master? She's, you know, she's programmed, she's at a higher level of AI, but she's still got, obviously, her programming, and it's very hard to kind of do that. She's also saccharine sweet, overly so, annoyingly so in most cases, but because it services the episode, it's a great piece of acting in this. You know, she's super optimistic, she's super hopeful, even when she's like throwing people through windows, particularly Spike. You know, she's got a mission. She wants to get Warren back, and no one will stand in her way. And it does lead us to a very heartwarming end to the episode as well. When she's, you know, her power is draining. She's going to wind down at some point. This is a sort of end of life scenario, and she's just happily talking to Buffy on the swings, and kind of like Buffy is just not pandering to her, not talking down to her, but just being there for her. You know, and she's like, oh, it's getting dark. It's like, yeah, it is. Even though this is not a real human, Buffy's heroic nature, Buffy's caring nature and supportive nature doesn't want to alarm her by saying, no, it looks pretty alright to me. She lets her die calmly and peacefully, happy with thoughts of Warren. And that's a beautiful episode. Like the next episode that I'm going to talk about, it kind of deals, you know, like I said, particularly that end bit, about death, and, you know, how we all want to go that calm way, just thinking of something we love, just thinking of something that gives us happiness as we just drift off, as everything just slowly shuts down and we drift off to sleep. You know, our eyes close, the world darkens, and that's it. No more, but not worried about it. But the next episode, you know, obviously the last two I think are pretty obvious now, but the next episode is the body, and I did cover this in a bit of detail in the overview. It's a very hard topic, and I said it, you know, in that previous video. I love the fact that the music isn't guiding you. Your emotions are raw. Your emotions are based on what's happening with these characters and what's happening in your own experiences. This may have been cathartic for some people. This may have been indicative to some people of what can happen with death, because some people have never experienced a loved one dying, and hopefully not, you know, will not for some time. But this gives you that raw, moment by moment, beat by beat, feeling by feeling guide through what it's like to have someone close to you die. And we see all the gang react differently. Giles goes and plays Tales of Brave Ulysses by Cream, of course, because he has that fond memory from Band Candy, and we won't dwell on that too much. Xander doesn't know what to do. You know, as the least powered in the group, and of course this does come up in Season 7 to a degree as well, but as the one without any special powers. He's not mystical, he's not magical. You know, he was once split into two versions of himself earlier in the season, and, you know, made Dracula's pet, if you will. But he hasn't got any innate powers of himself, you know, or in himself. Yet he's the one who's, like, punching a wall. The people with power, the people with the ability to maybe do something, are just broken. They don't know what to do. They're just meandering about. There's no real, you know, thread in them that's just moving forward. And like I say, you know, there's close angles, lingering shots, just getting these slices of everyday life that just seem silly. I mean, the whole Willow breakdown over what she's going to wear, you know, it gets me, because this is what happens in grief. You don't know what to do with yourself, and minor niggles suddenly become the world. Willow's whole thing of, like, I don't want to look flippant, but Joyce really liked that, so maybe I should wear that because I'm going to see her. It's a very real thing people, you know, grieving do. And this whole episode was more deserving, I think, even than Hush, for some kind of award. And it's always going to be one of my favourite moments of television, but not obviously for, it was amazingly spectacular or anything like that. It's a favourite because it's so raw and real, in a way that most reality shows don't even get close to. But, like the season, we end with a bigger look at the gift. And this was a gift, it was a weird kind of scenario. Buffy's going to die, but she is... There is at least another season around the corner. Just ignore that. Pretend this is the real big sacrifice. And the whole lead up, everything that we've been building to now with the crazies, Glory is Ben, all of that stuff leading up to these last moments, and a great turn by Joel Grey as Doc, sinister just like he was, in the whole resurrecting Joyce episode. But it was just such a great end to the season. And of course, we've had the threat of Ripper, if you will, over the last few years, sort of rising and rising. But we've never seen him do anything really bad. Never anything super sinister. Not, obviously, since a teenager. We know he brought this Igon into being, etc. But we've never seen adult Rupert Giles do anything that's really borderline reprehensible. Yet... in this episode, at the end of the season, he realises what no one else does. Or he's willing to do, I suppose, what no one else will. Glory can't be killed. She's far too powerful, and every time she gets knocked down, she'll revert to Ben. But she'll give her time to recover. That's not good. That's not useful. To kill Glory, you need to kill Ben. And he does. And this was a very shocking moment. The first time I watched it, I was like, they're not going to do that. No, that's wrong. That's Giles. It was such a awful moment, a shocking moment, and it should be. We shouldn't be happy with our so-called heroes gleefully killing. Obviously, we let Buffy get away with it because she's doing demons, and I should rephrase that, but it's kind of accurate. She's doing demons and vampires and all of this, so it's not people, per se. Giles is the only one we've seen, really, who's meant to be a good guy killing people. And this does lead into not so much the Season 6 arc. It doesn't do anything particularly in that. The whole situation with Willow is that he's trying to help her. But in Season 7, we see this very kind of heartless general approach to Giles. So this was laying the seeds for that even more so. And like I say, it was super shocking. And like I say, the end of the episode, I did get a copyright claim because I just wanted to use that. So I'm not going to use that for the end shot for this video, but that whole zoom into the grave with Sacrifice, the piece of music playing underneath. After the whole jumping in and the whole speech, the hardest thing to do in this world is live in it. For anyone who's had any kind of issues, whether it's been something like bereavement, or just any kind of depression or anything like that, or anxiety, that sentence, that statement rings true. And it'd be nice if someone could just help us through it sometimes, but it's not always the case. We have to soldier on, we have to be the hero in our own story. And although Buffy's story seemed to come to an end, it didn't. And I think that's a very powerful metaphor. If Buffy can come back from the dead, you can probably get over the next hurdle. And I think that's a great place to end this episode, and of course that season, on. So next time we're talking about a less good season of Angel. It has some great moments though, and I can't wait to talk about those. So do hope you'll join me for that. And yes, I've still got this, these big projects and stuff coming. I've got a lot of stuff that I'm planning to just get cleared and get out the way, and I'll get onto stuff like that. So big, brighter things coming, I promise. So don't join me for all of that, but until next time, as always, thank you for watching, and take care.